cosmic beings. We're back, back, back in the house. That was another thing I was thinking about. Victoria was doing something like that. Victoria also mentioned that I think she said something along the lines like, let's add a howdy do in there. So, howdy do, everybody. Happy
Howdy do.
February. Um, Thank you all to tuning in to last week's episode. So speedy. We appreciate and love everyone who was right on the money, our subscribers who were very eager and excited to watch us. We thank you very, very much. And for those out there who are coming in for the first time, my name is Chloe. This is my sexy, gorgeous, beautiful co-host, the Victoria.
Hey.
Hey, T. And we have two episodes out. One of them is an introductory episode. The other one is the judgment call. So I highly recommend to go watch those other videos so you can get to know us a little bit better.
Go do it now.
Go do it right now. Get
Right
out of
now.
here. You still here? I see you. Go away. Love you. Come back. Thank you. Bye. Um, we're going to spin the wheel and we're going to figure out what today's topic is. So I'm going to have Victoria count me down, please.
Okay, three, two, one. What we get? I feel like last week was so chaotic. Let's see what this week is.
Yeah, because the momentum be momentuming. Toxic behavior
Oh, we love her.
is
Okay.
today's. Yes. Um, I think it would probably be a good idea to maybe spin again and give it a contrasting thing. I feel like last week we had judgment and self-love. Like, let's give the contrast. Let's do a
Yeah.
little transmutation. So I'm gonna
Little
spin again. Spirit, help, growth.
okay.
Fabulous. That's exactly what I
We love
needed.
like the positive with the negative.
I see that my spirit was like, okay, Chloe, we don't have to talk solely about toxic behaviors. We're going to talk about
Growth.
calling out our toxic behaviors in order to experience growth. That, that's
Okay.
that's what's happening. I don't know. Let's look up some like common toxic behaviors, go through the list, chit chat about them, give our 2 cents, and then we'll talk about which one of those we definitely know we've had or have and how we transmute them and grow and evolve
So
with the help
I
of the
already
spirit.
like searched them up just now.
Okay. All right.
Um, we got a nice little list for toxic personality
We
traits.
love a ready queen, not a toxic
Yes.
behavior at all.
Right. Um, um, so the first one is manipulation. Um,
Not the narcissism right out the bat.
but I also feel like manipulation and like gaslighting kind of go together.
Oh yeah, there's guilt tripping. There's so many forms. So many
Um,
forms of it.
but yeah, so manipulation, I've definitely seen a good amount of that. There's also on this list, it says playing the victim. And I also feel like that ties into manipulation. I just feel like like narcissist toxic trait is like full on within itself, like just a manipulative behavior. Um, but yeah, so manipulation ties in with gaslighting and playing the victim.
Do you
So,
feel like give me like a conversation of a made up example of like when this occurs and what's it look like in your perspective?
okay, maybe like I don't know, your like significant other does something and you're like, okay, like bye, I'm done, like whatever. And then they play the victim and they're like, no, like I can't live without you, or like, but you did
Okay,
this
like
to me.
begging
Yeah,
and
like
like
begging
flipping it.
or like
Yeah.
you did this to me. So like, and I stayed with you, so like why wouldn't you stay with me?
Mm.
Like or downplaying the situation and making
Just a
it
lack
seem,
of accountability, I feel like
yeah,
all the
yeah.
way around.
Yeah, and then like the
Projection on
and then like
projection on steroids.
yeah, like
Mm.
gaslighting too, like basically like making it seem like what you're saying is not,
You're the problem,
yeah,
not
like you're the
me.
problem. And I feel like I've seen
I don't
that.
even have a problem, but I'm yelling at you.
Right. I think I've seen that quite
Kind of
often,
funny.
whether yeah, whether it's like with like my own like relationships or like even with
Mhm.
like family members. No offense, my lovely,
Wait,
beautiful
listen, I think we
family.
all have moments. It's just different levels of toxic behavior, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the really more intense, like, kind of ones,
Yeah.
or there's ones that's like, oh, that's a little toxic. What you doing
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Love
It's like
you, but I just don't think it feels good. I think that like the narcissism and the manipulation, like when someone is in that energy and is treating someone else in that
hmm
space, it's in attempts to get that other person to do things to make the original person feel better because that person feels empty and sad and not good enough and
and
insecure and
yeah,
all the things on the inside. So they're attempting to control their surroundings so that they can feel
I
balanced. But
definitely
that's not the answer, you guys.
I definitely have to say that it is like their insecurities are like shining like obnoxiously too loud. Because no, because it's like
Call it
the
out.
dude,
Uh,
like why are you over here gaslighting me? Why are you over here
It's
making it
helpful when
seem
eventually you can recognize it because I think that if you've been through it, eventually you get to a point where you're asking yourself so hard if you're crazy that like when you know you're questioning yourself to that extreme, something's up. Because
hmm
especially we don't normally do that. I feel like I'm so glad now that I've been able to recognize these things in other people because now I get to just be there, be like, oh, you really don't love yourself, huh?
I just feel
And
like
that like triggers them
well like
into this
that's like
rage.
my thing. Like I think I've definitely manipulated or gaslighted someone before and stuff. And
If I did, I don't think I was consciously aware that I was doing it though.
I realized
Right.
after I like,
Okay.
yeah, I realized after. I think in the moment I
Was it like, oh, like you should get that thing to like get it yourself or something like that? Like I can't imagine it
no,
was that heavy.
no, I was just being petty. I was just being petty
Oh, trying to
because,
get someone to do something
yeah,
just
well, it was just
to stroke
like
your ego.
they kept doing it to me. So I went
Oh,
ahead
like a
and,
get back
yeah,
situation.
which
Okay.
I will have, it was not my best moment, but it was so long ago.
Mm.
You know, I was young. So it's like, I mean, you
Well, and
can't
I feel
blame it,
like,
but
well, and it's conditioning, it's right. It's if you see other people doing it, there's a part of our brains that's like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do, you know?
yeah, I mean, I knew I
Or you see
wasn't.
it working for someone else and you're like, oh, if it worked for them, it'll work for me,
But I knew
you know?
I wasn't meant to do it. Like I knew it wasn't something that
It didn't feel good. And you
yeah,
probably
yeah.
felt guilty and ashamed a little bit because after the fact, you're like, yeah, that's not really me, you know? And I think that's
hmm
what a lot of like toxic behavior is like you're just reacting to your external from a place of like disconnection within yourself, not realizing
hmm
that it's kind of a reflection. So that was the other thing I realized is when I noticed a lot of toxic behavior in my outside life, I was like, oh, what's going on in me? That
Yeah.
like, like, wait a minute. Because then I'm like choosing it. I think that for me, that means like whatever you don't change, you choose.
hmm
So if that's removing yourself from a situation that doesn't feel good, whether that's you learning to feel better yourself and to set boundaries, whether, you just have to become aware of what your current reality is and ask yourself, is this one I want to continue to be in or not?
Yeah.
How does it feel for me to be here right now? And if going and trying to do things like manipulation and, gaslighting, if all of those things that you're doing in attempts to control your environment because you don't feel good, you get what you give, it comes back. So I think you have
hmm
to experience that a couple times of like, oh, like I'm the issue eventually. And
Yeah.
then you can begin to maybe replace some of these behaviors with healthier behaviors once you kind of open yourself up to them. But I think that it's exhausting and it
Yeah.
probably is a lot of energy to be in that energy of toxic all the
I think
time.
you don't like realize it like when you're doing it. I don't think
No.
you're not fully aware that you're doing it until
You
like
know, you're not gonna know until hits the fan. You get everything back that you just gave, and then
yeah.
you're like, oh,
It's
boo
like
hoo. But then
self-reflection.
but that's when you get into the victim mentality, like, woe is me, the world is against me, I'm not doing anything wrong. But like because we have free will, like you can continue to think that for the rest of your life. Go ahead. It just won't be anywhere near me.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. You said about like lack of responsibility and stuff because that's one of the traits on here too.
Accountability.com says you're not
Yeah.
aware of what you're doing or you can't own up to it. And that's like, that just tells me a lot about who you are. Like,
Or
now
like,
I think there's a little difference, right? It's like,
yeah.
oh, I forgot I did this thing. But then there's the blatant, you know, they're lying and they're just trying to like get at like weasel out of it. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, come
Yeah.
on. What are you doing?
Another one of the traits is like insincere apologies, and that's something that
Mm,
I'm the type of person where like I'm just gonna say don't apologize if you don't mean it, or like don't
I agree with that.
apologize if you're gonna keep doing it.
Well,
Like,
apologies are an interesting thing too, because it's like, expecting apologies is almost a toxic behavior within itself, which is a controversial take. Hear me out.
mm-hmm,
Because if you're looking for an apology, it's because you feel wronged.
mm-hmm,
And because someone else did something, you no longer feel good. It's their fault. You're blaming them. I want an
yeah,
apology. You don't have to do that.
yeah, you're not
You can
obligated.
change, yeah, you can change how you feel without needing a sorry. Because really, what is someone's word based on their previous action? What the
Yeah,
word sorry, is that really going to change how you feel?
no, it's the
Probably
action.
not.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
But
the
really
action that you take.
yeah, but it's not even like the action of the other person. It's what are you doing to change how you feel?
Mm-hmm,
Because if you're going to think that that other person is going to start acting the way that you want them to so you can feel better, you're going to live like that forever. You're not going to
mm-hmm,
feel good. They're going to continue to do things you don't like because you say you don't like them and you continue to point them out and
yeah.
say, you're wrong. Say sorry to me. Like, no, guys, it's just not going to work.
And also like I feel like you shouldn't apologize if you don't feel like you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, because then it's like it's within that where it's like insincere apology. Like you truly don't feel like you need to apologize. You truly don't feel like you're wrong. So why should you? Like that goes for both parties. Like, why should you? You know, like if you don't feel like you're
It's
wrong
only to
about
make
something,
that other person feel better. That's the whole
yeah, and
point.
that's the thing. Like, if you feel like you aren't wrong, but that other person feels like you're wrong, then you can say something along the lines of like, I'm sorry for the way that you felt, the way that you received it, or whatever. You don't,
Which I just want to pin that really fast because I feel like a lot of people now, like if you say something like, I'm sorry you feel that way, people are like, that's not a real apology. Like, that's so shady. And it's like,
but
what?
no,
Like,
you're
you're the one who
validating,
decides that my behavior affects you in the
right.
first
But
place.
you're validating their feelings. Like they're human. They're gonna feel however they want to feel. They're gonna take
Yeah.
it however they want to take it. And that's okay. I'm not saying that that other person's feelings are invalid. I'm
Yeah.
100% sure that those people's feelings are
Yeah.
completely
That's
valid.
their experience. Who
That
am I
yeah,
to argue it?
that's how they are feeling.
But it's also like I'm too aware of the fact that me saying sorry isn't gonna change or help that.
But the thing is the same way that somebody else is feeling that way, like your feelings are valid too. So it's
Yeah.
like both parties' feelings are valid. Both
Mhm.
parties are feeling a certain type of way, they feel hurt or whatever. An apology isn't going to fix it. Acknowledge their feelings, yes. Acknowledge the fact that
I
they
think
are human.
expressing love is
Yeah.
really the answer, as opposed to
Yeah.
apologies or validation, which I guess can sometimes be a form of expressing love. I feel like I've become a more unapologetic person, and I'll tell you why. I feel like, A, I guess I don't do anything that really harmful to need to
Hmm.
apologize for anything to start with. But also because I'm too aware of A, kind of like what I just said, that it might not change anything. It could, but I also think that I don't want to promise you in my apology that I'm not going to do it again when there's a very real chance that it could happen again. I don't know, right? I think that
Yeah.
sometimes you're going to sit there and be like, it depends on the severity of what you did that was hurtful, right?
Hmm.
But I also feel like in some way we give permission to be hurt by other people. So it's like a catch 22 a little bit. I think that
Yeah.
if you take things less personally, like for example, like I was mentioning to you, this guy I'm speaking to like apologized to me for like his phone dying and like him being out. And I'm like, I appreciate that apology, but I would have been okay if I didn't get it because like things
Hmm.
happen. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. It's not personal. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just like glad you're okay. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like I'm happy to hear from you. Like those things make people feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have to defend myself or explain
Hmm.
myself or get this person under, you know, it's like all of that judgment underneath the you needing to say sorry or you're not doing this right or whatever. Like it can be released in a more peaceful way if you just accept that other people are going to do whatever they do and you just do what you do and you get to decide in what capacity you want to relate to each other. If you don't
Yeah.
agree with the way someone's behaving towards you, you don't have to talk to them,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, yeah, you can approach it and but the thing is that they might not realize that they're doing anything wrong. And
No, I'm
that's
such
that's
a,
it.
it's like I have a love-hate relationship with like conflict resolution because I think that it's important to like consider other people's sides, right? Like have an open mind, like be an active
Hmm.
listener, have empathy for other people. But I also won't tolerate someone disrespecting me because they felt disrespected by something that I don't even feel like I did.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna sit there and let you chew me out. And me being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Like,
Yeah.
I disagree. I just disagree. I disagree. You
That's
know?
it. That's
What
it.
are you gonna do?
Bottom line, you disagree. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like, listen, or it takes more energy to sit here and argue about who's right and who's wrong than it is to say, if you're so gung-ho on the fact that I need to apologize to you and I don't feel like it's necessary, part ways a little bit easier, don't you
Yeah.
think? You know, like it's just not that deep. It doesn't have to be that deep. Or I love agreeing to disagree. You
Hmm.
know, but I think there's levels to this, right? Like if I made out with your husband, you would
Child.
expect me to say sorry, and I
Right.
probably would say sorry. But
Right.
also, I'm not sorry because if I was gonna be sorry, I wouldn't have done it.
Hmm. It's just simple as that.
No one talks about that for real. It's like the sorry is such almost like a slap in the face. You're right, because it's insincere already. I think
Hmm.
that you could tell in the way someone's saying it. Like if someone really was like, oh, like I didn't know I was doing that and I didn't know it hurt you. Like I am sorry you felt hurt. Like I'll do my best to be mindful not to do that again because I don't want to cause harm to you because I care about you. But I
Yeah.
also know that like the more someone else expects you to change for them to feel better,
Hmm.
like that's toxic too.
But it definitely depends on the situation. I think that if you something like that, that's different. That's
But
like,
then
okay,
again, you'd
you,
look at me and be like, I don't need an apology. I need you to get the F out of my life. Like,
well,
that's what
yeah,
would happen.
but for that, it's like you knew damn well what you were doing from the start. You know what I'm saying? Like for someone to do that to you, like in general, like you knew going into
Deception.
that you were,
People like to
yeah,
play like they're not aware. Like, I do believe we have subconscious behaviors that we're not aware of, but for the
yeah,
most part, people know exactly what
yeah. But something like that, okay, that's different. But like what like let's say I do something stupid or whatever like and I'm not realizing that I did something that hurt your feelings or whatever, but you took that
you
action
know?
as something that, hurt you or whatever. How was I meant to know? I didn't know. I didn't do it
Yeah, getting mad
willingly.
at someone is no
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I didn't do it willingly. I didn't do it in the with the intent to hurt you or anything like that. But I did it. I wasn't aware, but I did it. And to you, it affected you. It hurt you. It disappointed you,
It just
whatever.
has nothing to do with me, though. Like,
Yeah,
I was
because
just being me,
yeah.
though.
Hmm.
It's almost like when you play like the don't touch me game, like I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. And like that person is getting angry thinking that you're touching them, but like you're not.
Hmm.
And that's almost exactly what it is. Cause I'm gonna sit
Yeah.
there like, listen, I didn't mean to poke the bear, but if you feel poked, like that's not my
Sorry. Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. That's sorry for you,
It's
I
different if
guess.
you're saying like I didn't do anything when that person knows damn well they were doing something.
Yeah.
That's where like right the gaslighting
Okay.
comes into play, but you're not really going to know. So like just recognizing the behaviors for what they are and saying I
Hmm.
don't want to be around someone who behaves like this just takes out all of the mumbo jumbo of trying to analyze
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Free yourself. internally and from the situation you're in.
Hmm.
Because we have that ability. Just
Yeah.
save yourself.
I feel
Save
like
yourself.
that's like how like growth plays into it is just kind of like
Mm,
analyzing yourself within those actions. Not feeling the need to apologize for things that you weren't aware
mm,
that was going to affect someone.
mm.
Um, and yeah, just looking within. Just look
Well,
within.
yeah.
See what's going
I
on. What triggered you? What didn't trigger
yes.
you? You know, like
Yes.
what led you to believe that that person was doing this intentionally?
Yeah, like what part of you feels hurt, right? It's that
Hmm.
self-reflection. And I feel like when we're sitting here looking at people and kind of pointing the finger and saying, like, this is a toxic behavior, I think there's a difference between sitting there and arguing for that and then just saying, like, oh, that's not me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna, because I feel like toxic behaviors just stem from the ego in the sense that people are feeling not enough, they're insecure, they don't know who they are,
Hmm.
they feel unloved and unsupported, like just disconnected entirely. So if people are coming from that place and you know you're not in that place because you don't behave that way, checking yourself and saying, are there places where I'm behaving that way that I need to transmute because I'm witnessing in my life? Let me make sure I'm not doing those things that I don't like that I'm
Hmm.
seeing, right?
Yeah.
That because that will help you grow is becoming aware of where am I doing things that are misaligned? Where
Yeah.
am I doing things that don't feel good to me or the people around me? Are people around me saying, hey, you're continuously doing like blatantly nasty things, like hateful things? And if you're
Yeah.
sitting there like, no, I'm not, okay, I'm
Y-
gonna just leave you where you are,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah. That person needs to like look within because it's like how the thing is if people are making you aware of what you're doing and you still continue to do it,
You're
that's
choosing not to
yeah.
grow. And that's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine. You're just not gonna be anywhere near me.
Yeah.
Just
Hmm.
nowhere near me because like I have to believe most people, I hope, because I feel like spirit calls everybody,
Hmm.
wants to love others and be loved.
Yeah.
So when we're not acting from that place, it's because there's a wound. There's an untrue belief somewhere within us that this is what we have to do in order to get what we need because we don't have enough
Yeah.
already within us. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? But we just have free will. So people are going to probably choose to stay in that toxic behavior if they're even aware of it in the first place. And sometimes it's not even their fault if they're not aware. It's just because they were surrounded by people who were also not aware. And maybe they're
Exactly.
not in that part of their journey where they're supposed to be having big spurts of growth right now. Maybe they're meant
Yeah.
to stay in the struggle a little bit longer because they're not getting it. Got to
Hmm.
repeat some of those cycles sometimes to wake
Yeah.
up and get the idea. And so, like, if I just, my advice to the listeners would be if you're noticing this behavior in others, going within yourself, getting clear on how you feel about those energies within yourself and in response to the people around you is a good thing to do.
Hmm.
Not claiming other people's toxicity as your own, taking on other people's burdens makes a difference as well.
Hmm.
And just controlling the controllables, which is how kind and loving do you speak to yourself and the people you love around you.
Yeah.
Seems so, straightforward, but I think that you have to really get sick and tired of experiencing the suffering
N-
within and
Yeah.
causing suffering to other people to
And
really
get out of your
open your
comfort zone.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of your
Open.
comfort zone and look within and see what's going on. What is leading you to act this way if you are aware? You know, like what's going on in there? Like
Because
what's going on in your
we
mind?
have to prioritize our well-being enough to just ask us, like, are we good? Like, you
I
have to
mean,
develop your relationship with you.
it's
But if you don't, like, or you can't, that's because you believe that. And like, okay, it's not my job to change that. I wish you all the best of luck. I
but
hope you find yourself.
we're all just human beings trying to figure it out.
This is why I look at every person and I
That's
see like
it.
a 4-year-old. I just want to hug them,
I
dude,
mean,
because
half
it's
the
like,
time it's like a wounded
damn.
child. Yeah, like
Yeah,
you
that's
like
exactly. It's
yeah.
always the root of it is something happened and they didn't
Yeah.
have the awareness when they were younger. Like they
Hmm.
don't know any better. So like that's why I try to like help as many people realize that they deserve to feel good. And when you feel good, you're going to want others to feel good. And then you're
Yeah.
just living in spirit and it's fabulous and it's a good time because you're like, I love love. And you're like in this giddy little high land. Everyone's looking at
Yeah.
you like, That's her issue. It's like, no, you're the one with the issue. I'm flying high right now, dude. You want to be where I am, but you're choosing that. So come up when you're
Yeah.
ready.
No,
Have
literally.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Enjoy the
it's
pits. Maybe you'll bounce up eventually. I
yeah.
hope so. Hope to see you. Love you.
Love you. See you later.
Yeah, good luck. I'm here if you need me. It's like I'm a little spirit guide up here. Like, hey, it feels way better for me. It might not feel better for you, but you don't know until you bounce up here. If you want to go back, you can. It's inevitable
Hmm.
we go back. We all bounce back to that at some point. But then we
Yeah.
realize we want to actually feel more like
Yeah.
ourselves and come into alignment and be back up here. But, that's profound, and some of the people just aren't.
Tea. Tea. Tea.
Don't be scared, guys. You have to feel some of these negative things and guilt and shame and
To feel the
frustration with
good
yourself and the
things.
world. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to like let it go.
Hmm.
But if you're too afraid to even look at yourself,
Like
it's gonna get worse. I
it's
hate to break it to you, sis.
like the shadow, what is it, shadow work or whatever? Like
Yes, ma'am.
you literally have to look. Like let's
Ask
just go
yourself.
through we have to go through our entire life. Like, hey, so what happened, back when, whatever year that
I don't
was?
even think you need to even like relive all the past experiences. You know what I did? Because like I really didn't want to like do a lot of shadow work, right? I resisted my shadow work at first, okay? But I didn't want to do it in the way that people were telling me to do it, which is journal and do all this. So I
Hmm.
just sat with myself and experienced life as one does. And I just started to ask myself a few general things. One, what do I really hate and dislike about myself?
Hmm.
For starters, right? Where do I feel resistance and upset and judgment within myself?
Yeah.
Get those all out there. Then I looked at them with a clear head after I got them out. And I'm like, do I believe any of these things really, truly? Half of them got crossed out because no, I don't actually believe those are true. Those are just
Hmm.
intrusive thoughts most of the time, right? And
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, here are the ones that I really feel like make me sad or like don't feel good, right? These are the thoughts that I'm thinking or the behaviors that I do that I don't like. And then I'm like, okay, what can I replace them with that would feel better to me?
Hmm.
And then I just did them. And I reprogrammed my brain to start thinking things that felt better and doing behaviors that felt better for me to do when I noticed negative things coming up because they're going to come up and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with them. But eventually you're going to want to get back to feeling
Yeah.
grounded and at peace,
Yeah.
yourself, full of love and light. So
Hmm.
then, you start working backwards from there,
It's
but
it it's
not
just
for
making
everyone.
yourself aware of those, little traits that you have that you don't feel good doing them. You don't feel good when you're in that action. So you choose to just take a step
Stay
back
where
and be
you
like,
are, and
"Hey,
that's
I
cool
don't
and
want it." Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting you say like you almost have to like make yourself aware, like create a sense. Like to me, I found that although I do use it in those same words sometimes, you almost have to tap into the awareness because
Hmm.
our divine consciousness is like you just have to ask yourself, are you aware of what you're
Yeah.
doing? And most of the time, the answer is yes, because we're awareness.
I mean, it's just most of the time the answer is yes because you within yourself feel wrong or you feel weird or you feel upset or you're just grumpy or whatever
You
it may
just have to
be.
tap
You're
into it.
physically showing it. Like you know, you're just physically
It's
showing that
manifesting.
yeah, that
Yeah.
you're not okay. And that's
Yeah.
fine. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you make yourself aware and you try to fix it. You know,
Well,
it's
yeah, it's recognizing that there's nothing inherently wrong with your toxic behaviors. It
yeah.
came from disconnection and low vibrations early in
Mm-hmm.
life where you didn't know any better. You know what I mean? But I feel like we all effortlessly grow, whether we
Mm-hmm.
like it or not. And you only feel bad when you're resisting the inevitable growth of getting closer to who we truly are and
Yeah.
living our life the way that
Yeah.
our higher self intends. It's
Which
only
will
when you hold
show,
yourself apart
yeah.
from who you are where you don't feel very good and you start acting in these ways.
And those
You know what I
things will
mean?
start to show up physically too. Like weight gain, your skin will look dull, hair, all that stuff. Like
It
it's
can
crazy.
manifest physically
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
real.
Or
And,
you'll feel sick, like you'll literally feel sick. or tired or whatever.
Sometimes
Like,
those are the things that wake you up. Or, you're like me and you wake up crying every day. You can't even go to work anymore.
hmm
What,
yeah,
I had to start looking at myself there, sis. Yeah,
yeah,
what's going on? Sometimes you push so hard against yourself that you have to put yourself in a really tough situation in order to evolve,
hmm
kind of thing. But I feel like if you can choose to just go with the flow of life, which is ebbs and flows, leaning into this discomfort, finding things that you can become comfortable with the
hmm
uncomfortable, recognizing that you are divinely loved and enough and good and whole and
yeah,
complete, and you don't need to do these things in order to be seen or heard or valued. Like if you can just realize what your spirit is telling you, you have to like get rid of some of that old gunk
hmm
first. And
yeah.
then it's just up and up and up and up and up and up. And
And
then
you're
you're just
gonna
like
feel
up there.
so good.
Oh,
I mean,
and
it's
then
not to
you
say that you won't have like some crappy
no.
days,
Oh no,
but
no. You're gonna go right back down there, but you're
yeah.
gonna know that your true natural vibration is up here. And
hmm
you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm not feeling like myself. Let me do things that I love or that excite me and like move my way back up the ladder because I love myself enough
Yeah.
to feel good."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love the people around me not to treat them the way I wouldn't want to be treated.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Just don't
Treat others
resist
the way
yourself.
you would want to be treated.
That was like pre-K 101, guys. That's one of the only things I learned in school that's actually valuable.
Yeah.
Okay. It's that simple. Like if you
Yeah.
wouldn't want it done, you don't, just don't do it. But if you do it, just know like you're gonna get it back.
hmm
That's just how it works.
Yeah.
But like, everyone has the different journeys, and like some people just have to go through that in order. You gotta go through it to grow through it. Da 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 da. You know?
Yeah. No,
Period.
I think this is a great topic. I think that a lot of us have toxic traits and
You do. And so does everyone watching this. And
yeah.
so do I,
Yeah.
But
And
are
that's
you aware of
okay.
what they are? Are you
And
compassionate to yourself and what you have them?
and
What are you
if you're
changing?
aware of them, are we doing something to change them, guys?
Take a good hard look at yourself,
Because
sis.
I think that's even more toxic if you are fully aware of what you're doing and you still continue to do it.
Okay, now hear me out. There are some things that I think others might view that I do that are toxic, but if I don't view them as toxic, is it really toxic?
Yeah, kind of.
If I'm not blatantly like, you may look at some, like, and this is where perception matters though, because I might look at a certain behavior. There's the general collective knowing of what's toxic,
hmm
but I could say like you calling me Chloe and not Chloe is toxic. Dumb example, but like,
Right.
but can be applied into general things where like I might view something as so horrible and wrong and evil, but like we all get to decide for ourselves what
Yeah.
is right or wrong, good or bad
I think
feeling.
there's like a base for it, like a baseline for it. Oops.
Yeah, there's like a general understanding,
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
will.
that like there's things that people might take into offense, like that are not offensive to others, and that's just perspective. Um,
Yeah.
and then I
At
think
the
there's
end of the
just like
day,
baseline toxicity where it's like,
yes.
okay, we need to chill. Like,
Well, and it's asking yourself at the end of the day, and I feel like this is a good way to kind of sum it up in a funny way of calling everyone out. Are you happy with yourself
yeah.
and what you're doing?
hmm
Do you feel good and confident in the way, would you respect the way you're moving throughout life if you weren't you
Yeah.
looking in, you know?
hmm
Are you good, fam?
Do you need a hug?
You need
Where
a
my
hug.
hug
You want
at?
a little walk? Did you take a nap yet? Is someone a little grumpy? You gotta sometimes
Yeah.
just ask yourself those things, I was about to say like walk a duck, pet a cat. I don't know where that came from. That's a weird saying. But the message behind that is just have fun and relax, everybody.
Yeah.
Or if you're sitting at home, right, and you're like, man, I'm gonna do some toxic things today. It's gonna feel so good. Power to you. At least you feel good doing it.
Right.
But for the people who don't feel good doing it, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
That's all I want people to ask themselves is if they're satisfied. And if they're not, what are do think and do some things that might be satisfying to you. That's all. Love ya.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a good note to end it on. I don't know.
Yeah. No judgment.
No
As we
judgment.
talked about
As
in the
yep,
last
last
call,
week.
we all do it. You're not alone. But
Yeah,
let's feel the feels. Let's release the limiting things and all grow together.
we love growth.
So my
Yeah.
final message is to to not resist your growth, ladies and gentlemen. Love you very much. And
But we'll catch you guys next week
yeah,
with whatever insane topic we might have.
insert outro here.
Bye.